Hi everyone. Thanks for staying alive in such a late time. I know it's a bit hard to accept any presentations in the end of the day. I won't have any code on my slides, and I will try to present as much lighter way as I can. So first I want to show you some quote about comparing web internet and mobile internet is like comparing color TV and black and white TV, because mobile is just a web now. And probably all of you will look at your phone once or twice, even during this presentation, even if you won't do it. Today we will talk about different analogues of installable mobile applications, Android instant apps, progressive web apps, and accelerated mobile pages. And we will talk about them from the tester point of view. So are there any QA engineers here? Oh, I see a couple of people, great. And how many of you test your applications during development? A bit better. As I was already presented, I'm an organizer of GDG Lviv and Devfest Ukraine, and I didn't work with these applications during my work. I work at a startup called getsocial, and we are developing mobile SDK, so I'm doing a lot of mobile testing. And I was interested in shifting my focus from mobile applications to something new, and I would like to share with you this experience. So why we are talking about it? First of all, publishing applications to App Store, especially iOS App Store, is a big pain. It's very hard to do all the reviews, and people who do the review could stop you, and you can resubmit your app again and again. Then, if your users don't need to download your update on your application and spend their time and internet traffic on that, they will be more loyal to you, and you will increase adoption rates. You will also remove some extra friction to users because they don't need to do any extra moves. As I've said, they don't need to download any updates. They don't need to go to App Store. They just click a link, and the application is already installed on their mobile phone. And also, all these analogues of installable mobile applications are very good for regions with bad network and countries which have budget devices. So we'll talk about three different analogues. First, Android instant apps, and they are very close to native mobile applications. Progressive web apps are somewhere in the middle between mobile web and native applications. And accelerated mobile pages are completely mobile web, but not typical web. Android instant apps. It's just a small module of native application which could be installed with just one tap for your mobile phone. You just click on usual link, but instead of mobile website, you are downloading actually mobile application, which looks and feels like a full mobile application, but you didn't go to any app store. And only needed portion of data is downloaded, and when you close it, it's completely deleted from your phone. So it's perfect for some cases when you don't need to download the app. For example, you are in a new place and you need to pay for parking for your car, and you can do it only through mobile application. So you don't need to download it, you just click on the link, do your payments, and forget about it. Big difference between usual mobile application and Android instant apps is that usual mobile application on Android is like a big project. And to do Android instant app, you need to modularize it and break down into small APK files, base file, and different files depending on the features. And all of that is packed into one big zip file. Android instant apps have different access for native features like location, payment API, camera, contacts, and permissions. Unfortunately, they don't have permissions to work with push notifications, background services, external storage, and changing device settings like changing wallpapers. And they have specific features like Play Install API, which allows user to save smooth experience between instant application and installable application. So for example, user created a playlist in instant application. When the user decided to download the full application and downloaded it, he logs in and he sees the playlist actually saved. And Smart Log, it's an API that allows you to log in users through Google credentials, so instant application don't store any sensitive data. Developers see and face different challenges when they want to create instant app. First is size restriction. It's only 4 megabytes, and to create instant application, you need to modularize it. It's not easy, especially if your project is old and have some legacy code. When developers are working on modularization, they need to do a lot of code cleanup and make some refactoring. And a lot of them on Google I/O told that after all this modularization and all this pain, their main project became much more clearer. And Instant App is not a trial, it's not a demo, it's a full application with a full user experience. You need to remember about that. What could help for developers? Using APK Analyzer and ProGuard, which will show what type of sources are used, like a lot of memory and so on. You need to always specify full ID and full path to your sources, because modules have different type of connection than usual application, and they could crash if you didn't specify the full ID. And also there is a very nice feature in Google Play Console for developers called Mobile Holdback. Maybe you heard about staging rollout, when developer wants to publish new version of their application only to some percentage of users. So they roll out it to, for example, 10% and 10 again and again and again. You can do the same for your instant application. You can decide which percentage of your users will still use mobile website and which percentage will use your instant app. So you can get feedback very fast and maybe update and fix some bugs. I would like to tell about Vimeo approach. Vimeo is a very popular video player, and they were one of early adopters of this program. So how did they do instant application? They have very big native mobile application, and to do it instant, they first removed any extra code that wasn't the player itself. Then all the left, they tried to trim it down to 4 megabytes. And they told that stopped using some very big, nice caching library, and they started using some very, very simple caching library. On the third step, they just tried to fix all the bugs created on the previous steps. And finally, they polished their instant application to stick to user experience rules, because we will talk about them later. Your instant application is not demo, it's a full mobile application. I also talked to some developers who were in early adopters about developing instant application and tried to ask about testing point of view, because I'm a tester, and I was interested how testers helped or interacted with instant application. And he told that it's completely developer responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And only challenge for testers is just make your instant app launch and make it work. It sounds a bit strange, but when I tried to launch it by myself, it really became difficult. If you're not a developer, first you face that instant apps are not available in some countries. And then they were released, but I realized that probably that mobile holdback feature is in reality, and I cannot control if I launch mobile website or instant app. So sometimes it's better to build it locally and interact with it. But besides that, as a tester, you need to know that instant applications need to be tested as completely native applications. It's not web, it's completely mobile, and you need to know how to interact with all these native features, but in a very small size. You need also to remember how to work with Android uplinks. It's a feature that actually makes this click on the link and launch an instant app work. You need to always work with HTTPS. You need to be sure that all the mapping of URLs between your feature models are correct. For example, you have basket, you have payment, login, and so on. You need to make sure that all the URL mapping matches to your modules. And make sure that your URL is not copy-pasted into browser. It needs actually to be clicked in some messaging app or email, for example. You should also pay big attention to user experience guidelines, because all the experience for user needs to be smooth and don't have any difference between instant application and your main application. Because probably instant application don't have all the features, and you need to push user to install your full mobile application. But if your user doesn't want to do that, you need to make sure that the application looks the same way before installation and after installation. Also, you can use different install prompts. They could look like buttons or pop-ups, but please don't overuse these pop-ups, because they are very annoying to user, and user could quit and don't want to install your application. And the last thing about testing Android instant apps. that when user goes, sends the application to background, all the memory is killed and the processes are killed. So relaunch will just create new instant app. You need also check the cache and data clearing, because different versions of Android Instant App could be available in Google Play Console. And if you're a tester, you need to make sure that you're testing the latest one. And also, if the logs are not clear for you and you cannot understand how to debug your instant application, just unpack this zip file. So if you remember the slide about project structure, instant application is just few APK files inside of one zip archive. You just unpack this archive and you can debug it more clearly. Progressive web apps. As you remember that line, they are somewhere in the middle between native mobile and mobile web. It's a special type of web apps that actually behave like native apps, not only on mobile, but also on the desktop. What's better, they can work online, and they could create instant access to the information for you and for your users. They could be installed. At least it looks like installation, because users see some pop-up, like, would you like to install this app? But the users, again, they don't need to go to the Play Store and the App Store. What's even better, progressive web apps could work with push notifications. Comparing to Android Instant Apps, they cannot do that. Progressive web apps work with a thing called web push. They could also keep local cache, which make them accessible offline. And they can also interact with media data like videos and images. And they also could use location features like nearby. All this is possible just because of Service Worker. If talking in a very easy way, Service Worker is a script that is running in your browser on the background, and it's caching information and makes your progressive web app available and working as a native application. What's even better, Service Worker are accessible on different mobile browsers. Especially the good news are about Safari, because they also, progressive web apps are also available on iOS, not only on Android. For example, this slide is taken from Google I/O, which took part this year. As you see, there are a lot of features. There are a lot of features accessible for progressive web apps, including push notifications, credential management, and even a payment API. And all of them, of course, are accessible in Chrome, but people use different browsers, not only Chrome. And for example, Safari is working on payment API and so on. Very nice example of progressive web apps is Twitter Lite. Maybe you've seen it when you are going to Twitter.com on your mobile browser. You see a pop-up, would you like to install Twitter Lite? It's actually a progressive web app. If you can see, its size is much, much less than native Twitter application. And just because of Twitter Lite, which uses less memory and which is accessible offline, Twitter got these wonderful numbers, like 75% more tweets. You could imagine how many revenue you can get for your application if you will use progressive web app in the right way. Preparing to this presentation, I saw a thought that progressive web apps are designed to compete only with websites. But then I started digging and realized that not only with websites, they're a very good competitor to Chrome apps. If you know, Chrome apps were stopped developing this year, and they are dropped now. And Google actually is trying to use progressive web apps on desktop. And earlier this week, Chrome released version 70, which started support of desktop applications on Windows and Linux. As I know, Mac is coming soon in version 74, which is near New Year. If you'd like to test progressive web app, you can use Project Hoverboard. It's an open source project. It's a draft for conference website. This project is created by Alex Zasadny and Sofia. Sofia was given a talk today about web accessibility earlier. And this project released version number 2 earlier this summer. And guys are trying to use the most recent rules in progressive web apps and the latest rules, let's say. If you don't want to launch it locally, you can just go to the website of Devfest Ukraine, because it uses the latest features of our project Hoverboard. If you'd like to test progressive web app, you should use the tool called Lighthouse. Lighthouse is accessible as Chrome add-on, as desktop application, but the easiest way is to use it in just developer console on audit tab. And also there is PWA checklist, which is like sticking to different rules. And when you are running audit in Lighthouse, you will see how many checklist items are actually like done well. So it's how it looks like. It's the Devfest Ukraine website, and you can see that 10 audits are passed, 10 from 10. How it will look on Android. On Android, you will see it's Chrome. You will see this pop-up. Would you like to install the progressive web app on your desktop? And people actually, when they don't think about it, they actually think that they installed full mobile application, but they didn't go to any Play stores. Sorry. On iOS, it's a bit different. On iOS, you need to do it manually and create a shortcut of progressive web app on your home screen. But it won't be a shortcut with this special icon. It will be like full progressive web app, which has much richer user experience. Android and iOS support of progressive web apps is a bit different because, of course, Android have all the latest features, and iOS could have some issues. For example, store only less than 50 megabytes of data, or enable to work with web push and so on. You should also keep in mind that iOS could create few instances of progressive web app on your home screen. It's a bug, but I need to say that service workers have started support on iOS only on version 11.3, only this March, so it's only less than a year came from the time, and they are trying to fix bugs as fast as they can. Also, you could use Service Worker on iOS only in Safari. Any other browsers like Chrome on iOS won't work with it. And you need to know that if user is using back icon, then any data will be cleared. You need also to know that for iOS, for new phones like iPhone X and all the other versions, you need to work with CSS a bit to work with notch area, but actually recently Pixel 3 was launched, and it also has notch area on Android, so you will need to work with it anyway, even on Android. Some web applications on iOS will still show link to the full app, and it breaks a bit experience because progressive web apps should look and feel like the full mobile applications. And if you are putting on the home screen the link like install our applications, it's a contradicting experience because users are confused that they need to install something else. And sometimes just a shortcut to web app is installed. As you can see on the background, there is only white screen, no data saved, unfortunately. There are a lot of different mixed applications now on mobile, especially on Android. They could connect native features and web features, like hybrid applications. And you can actually, instead of mobile web, add to your mobile application some progressive web app features, just like separate types. It could be done as WebView. WebView looks nicer, but it could cache some old data. You can also use custom tabs. They use always the most recent data, but unfortunately they have this address bar on the top, and it can be a bit confusing. Some testing tips, like the last tips about progressive web apps. You need to know about service workers a lot, especially when you're a tester. If you're working with mobile, probably you know about activity lifecycle on Android. So service workers also have their own lifecycle, and you need to know how they are started, how they are reduced, how they are cleared, and so on. You need to always remember about HTTPS. It's the same as in native apps. Progressive web app won't work properly with HTTP. You need to use Lighthouse because it's a tool that's suggested by Google. And you also need to combine your testing approach, like combining web and native mobile testing, because you cannot only test progressive web app as a mobile, and you cannot test it only as a web. You need to test native features as native features. You need to test web and cache as a web. Accelerated mobile pages. It's actually mobile web, but a bit non-typical one. It uses lightweight JavaScript and CSS, and that's why they could be accessed instantly. And also, as I know, Google trying to push it to become a web standard. Accelerated mobile pages were created as an analog to Facebook Instant View. Probably you've seen this feature when any article or any URL could be clicked and data is shown immediately. Why it's happening? AMP has special AMP HTML. Actually, all the HTML tags have special AMP part. Like, for example, image tag looks like AMP image. It has specially lightweight, optimized JavaScript and a special cache which saves all the data, and that's why it could be accessed immediately. AMP is very fast, not because of optimizations only, but because of cache. And the last sentence means that only the most important data is accessed the first. So, for example, we have different text and different images. Images could be omitted, but the text needs to be cached the first and could be shown to the user, so the user experience would be as smooth as possible. Why accelerated mobile pages are important? Because because Google shows them first in the ranking. As you know, it was launched a couple of years ago, but since this year, Google made the ranking rules more strict, and you need to have accelerated mobile page if you want to be on the top of Google pages, Google search results. This is how it looks like. If you search on any website on your mobile and you can see the special icon, you can be sure that you will access to accelerated mobile page. And sometimes pages on the first few pages of Google search are actually opened in a special Google previewer. So you will think that you opened a website, for example, amp.org. But if you will see the address bar, you are opening google.com/amp.org. So Google opened this page in the previewer because it cached all the pages previously and gives this information to you as fast as possible. It's possible just because of web packaging format. It's a special archiving of information, and it will be available on Safari soon, so Safari will also be able to work with AMP in some nearest future. What's good in accelerated mobile pages is, of course, high speed, is mobile ranking, and even server performance will become faster, because if you are working with faster clients, it will be easier for server. But there are some cons. Some people who implemented AMP told that their advertising revenue was reduced because not all the advertising providers could work properly with AMP, and that analytics is a bit stripped. As you know, Google Analytics fully support accelerated mobile pages, but maybe if you're using some another provider, there could be some difficulties and mismatches in your data. And that this high speed is only possible because of cache. That if you have some problems with this AMP cache, your AMP won't be as fast as you want. Accelerated mobile page is very important if you don't have any mobile website yet. If you are going to create it, it's worth to make it accelerated mobile page, actually, because it doesn't require a lot of resources, but your ranking in Google search will be much higher, and instant access to your website will be much better for your users. How to test accelerated mobile page? There are a few validators. One is called AMP test, another is called AMP validation. But also, you need to constantly check Google search results in special console if your AMP is shown high enough as you want. And also, there is special AMP browser, which is in beta. It's developed for desktop because accelerated mobile page could be shown only on mobile. But if you want to check it on your desktop, how it looks like, you can install this browser as an extension. This is how validation looks like. It's not AMP website, and how valid AMP website looks like. OK, I'm talking very fast, and we are close to final. There could be different discussions, and there could be different analogues of installable mobile applications. They cannot fully substitute your full app, but they could be a very good complement for your applications. And you cannot know if you need them, because you need to always think about the business context of your application. Oh, why do you see? So, Android Instant Apps. They are very good to use if you already have native Android application or you're going to create it, because Android Studio started from version 3, supports it from the back. And sorry, you cannot do it without native app, unfortunately. It's very good if your main feature, which brings you revenue, is used by native, by Android Instant App. Thankfully, Android Instant App support payments, contacts, camera, and so on. But if you rely a lot on push notifications, for example, probably it's not the best feature for you right now. And it's very good to use it only if you can measure Android Instant App value. For example, last year on Devfest Ukraine, we had a talk from Yulia Kaleda. She's from JetCom, and she told that after implementation of Android Instant App, their conversion increased to 23%, which means possible increase in revenue. It's a very high number, but it's very good if you can measure it actually. Progressive web app is very good to have if you don't have any mobile application yet, but you would like to try. Develop progressive web app will be much faster than submit your application to App Store and pray that it will be submitted, actually. And even maybe you would like to try creating a desktop application. Very nice example of desktop application is Spotify and Starbucks. They also partnered with Google, and they were presenting in Google AIA that they created progressive web app with a very nice user experience, and it helped a lot, again, increase revenue and bring value to users. You need to know that your developers would need to spend some time of learning service work and different stuff of creating progressive web app. And if your target audience works on Android, because iOS don't fully support progressive web app and user experience could be a bit broken. Accelerated mobile pages are very nice if ranking is very important for you, if your mobile users are very important for you, and if you're already able to measure your performance of your website and you are pretty sure that service part is fast enough. Because if you have service part very slow, it doesn't matter how fast your client is. And conclusions. All these analogs are different, and probably some new analogs will arrive soon. Some of them can fully substitute your app, some of them cannot. They could be a very good help for your mobile applications, but you still need to know how to test as mobile and web, both of them, because you cannot just switch to web and hope that native features will work. You cannot test just native feature and hope that web features will work. And again, everything depends on context. As a tester, I can say that context-driven, how it's called? Something like context-driven model is one of the most popular models in testing the world right now. It said that it doesn't matter what practice do you use, it matters if it brings value to you and if it good fits to your context, because best practice itself doesn't matter. Seems that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diana. So we have some questions. Okay, starting with someone very funny. Tabs or spaces, do you want to answer?
I use spaces, sorry.
All right. What does the clock mean in browser support?
The clock?
Do we have
what slide was it?
person here that can reframe the question?
Because I need maybe an example. Haven't noticed it. Sorry. Yes, sorry. It means that feature is in development right now, that it's planned to be released, but we don't know when exactly.
Okay. And the last one, good insights from previous talks, AIA size.
Oh, I didn't know that, thank you. Because I was preparing for, I don't know, after AIA, and yeah, probably I missed it, thank you.
And I have one last question. I was wondering, what do you like the most about being a tester?
I like communication part, actually. Okay. I'm a communicative person, and the main role of tester is bring information. It doesn't mean you need to search bugs only or only analyze requirements. You need to bring important information in time to your stakeholders. I like to be in the context always.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Diana Pinchuk.